here we are. Hi, Ustaz Nirmat.
Okay, I don't think I can see you.
Um, I see you. We're
Yeah, we are live. It's on our main site because it's screen shared on
yeah,
our account as well.
fantastic. Maria,
Oh wait. Yes.
I do believe that we've lost Ustaz Nirmat.
Yes. Wait, I will quickly contact her and then I will be back.
Okay, so for everyone who's joining, we are going to talk about Darfur today with DWAG and DarfurIDP.org. Let me put our links in the chat. A lot of you know that I'm from El Fasher, and our town is the one that's dealing with the massacre and the continuation of the Darfur genocide. As we get situated, I want you all to be thinking about why it is that something so devastating and so seemingly unending is going ignored. Hello, Sazan Ahmad.
Hi, Amy.
Thank you so much for joining and for
Wonderful
inviting me to do this
for joining
much
us.
needed.
Yes, well, thank you, everyone. I would like to express our deep appreciation to our audience for their patience with us.
Yeah, we're all very, very, very
Mhm.
slammed these days trying to coordinate everything we can on the ground. And when you invited me to speak with you about what it is we're experiencing as activists and change makers on the ground in Darfur and in the diaspora, of course I had to say yes because Ustaz Ahmad with Darfur Women Action Group and all of the work that you've been doing over the years in Darfur IDP, what we've been doing over the years in this moment, it seems to be something that we need the world to know about because the Al Fashir massacre was completely preventable, and every death in Sudan is preventable. This is the biggest preventable humanitarian crisis of our time. I would love to first start by asking you to beautifully explain what Darfur Women Action Group is.
Well, thank you, Amy, for joining us. Before explaining what we do, we wanted to focus on our 1 million voices for Sudan campaign and why we are organizing the campaign. And speaking about the situation in Sudan, today Darfur is again going through the most horrifying genocidal attack. I think in the last several days, many of you have spoken about Al-Fashir. We have witnessed the most brutal, cruel massacre that unfolded in Al-Fashir. It was systematic in nature and it was precisely targeting the same people that who have been targeted for well over 2 decades for killing rape and murder, starvation, whereby many people have lost their life. And because of that, the crisis in Sudan and the crisis in Darfur has been going on for far too long, but there is not much attention in the situation. And because not many of you spoke about it, that's why the perpetrators are emboldened. We still recall the horrifying scene out of Al Junaina in June of 2023, nearly 2 months after the start of this current war, where the Rapid Support Forces have marched into Al Junaina. They did exactly as what they did in Al Fashir. They put the city under siege. They cut people off of food, water, shelter, medical assistance, and other survival means, with an intent to kill more people. Have not excluded children, elderly, the sick. People who have wounded were forced to die with their wound without having access to medical assistance. The same, unfortunately, being allowed to happen again in Al Fashir. We have spoken about Al Fashir over the last 2 years. Al Fashir has been under siege, again with a precise intent, where the Rapid Support Forces said, we must starve them. Their strategy is to eliminate all survival means. They cut food from entering into the city. They precisely bomb hospitals, including the children hospitals and the maternity hospitals, and prevented people from bringing food into the city, from bringing fuel and any other humanitarian assistance. They block humanitarian aid, they block food supply, and these people have been starved. Even though they have gone through all of this, the people of Al Fashir have been resilient, hoping that the world will care and hold the RSF accountable and stop them from killing them. Unfortunately, what we have feared over the last 2 years, it did happen. The Rapid Support Forces have entered into Al Fashir, killing everyone they see. They bomb hospitals, they bomb homes, they went house after house searching for people, asking them on ethnic basis, targeting people to kill them. There is also credible sources of rape that have been systematically committed against women and girls over the night of October 26, when Al-Fashir was under that horrifying attack. We have seen the videos of young people, teenage children, who crossed into Tawila to bring a little amount of food for their starved families. They were shot and killed right in front of a camera. I have never seen criminal that is so emboldened and so bold in committing crimes, but recording themselves and spread it across the internet, showing the world that how brutal they are. 460 people have been killed inside a hospital. These are patients. Most of them are suffering way before this attack. They kill patients, they kill medical staff. The remaining people who are attempting to flee were prevented from fleeing. There are many people who have been held hostage and demanded ransom. Still, their families have yet to recover them. They force people and record them on videos calling. I can never forget the scene of a professor, a man who spent his entire life teaching people in an attempt and aiming to have these young people have a future. He's been a victim of this horrific attack. He's been tortured and told to send messages to his relatives and friends asking for money to be given to the Rapid Support Forces. 2 humanitarian aid workers, a man and his daughter, have been arrested and held hostage, asking their people for a huge amount of money. Nobody can afford it. Otherwise, they will be killed. And here we are. as we are speaking, and before this crisis unfolded in Al Fashir in the United States, our government here was hosting one of the Dagalu brothers, the man who masterminded this killing in Al Fashir, Algoni Dagalo, who have been buying and supplying weapons. He's based in Emirates and continue to fly across the world to lobby government on behalf of this genocidal killers regime or militias of the Rapid Support Forces. And that is why we are speaking to you today, because of the sense of urgency. The number of people killed immediately at the spot, about 2,000 people said. But I am quite certain the actual numbers are much higher. Many people have gone missing. We have immediate family members, cousins, aunts, nephews, nieces who are missing, and nobody knows their whereabouts. This is urgent, people. We cannot live in a world where genocide can be normalized. We cannot live in a world. Darfur and Al Fashir may seem so remote, so removed, so far away. But if we can tolerate genocide anywhere in the world, it can happen right in our backyards. And that is why we must all collectively come together to speak up. I'm going to pause here and we'll give Amy the opportunity to share with you her concern and her experience and also asking you what she wants to see you be doing throughout this campaign. But before that, I would like to explain the campaign, why we are launching this campaign. We're launching a 1 million voices for Sudan. It's because Sudan has been the worst humanitarian and genocidal attack in the world. And there is no media coverage. There is not many politicians speaking about it. And there are not many individuals speaking about it across the world. And that is why when we are quiet, then the perpetrators think it is okay for them to kill and murder, rape, and starve people to death, including children, and that they can get away with murder. But if more people can speak, they will be held accountable. And that is why we have launched this campaign last week. We just asking people to speak, either share information about the situation in Sudan, and particularly Al Fashir, Darfur, and Kordofan, where killing has reigned supreme, with other people. Speak to your friends, your family, and your peers, wherever you are. Share with your social media followers and urge them, tell them about the horrifying massacre that is unfolding in Al Fashir, telling them about the starvation and lack of humanitarian assistance and the use of a blockade of food as a weapon of war to kill more people. We would like to ask you all to join us to reach into a million voice that can speak for Sudan and can speak for the people of Al Fashir. We only want one person who can share with 10 people in among their either peers, family, relative, colleagues, or social media followers. Asking your Also, you can repost a message from us asking your leaders to immediately authorize, asking the Security Council, the US government, the African Union, the European Union, that Darfur needs you now more than ever. We need civilian protection forces to be authorized immediately under Chapter 7 to protect civilians in vulnerable areas like Darfur and Kordofan. There is an urgent need for unhindered humanitarian assistance to those in Darfur and across the Sudan to save life. Holding the perpetrators of these heinous crimes, the Rapid Support Forces, and also holding the regional enablers, such as Emirates, accountable for fueling and supplying weapons to kill more people. Join that campaign that says boycott Emirates and tell the world that the Emirate has been responsible, the enabler of the Rapid Support Forces committed genocide. asking your leaders and whether your parliamentarian members of Congress, if you are in the US, send the letter to your representative, send the letter to your both legislative and executive leaders. If you are international, send the letter to your parliamentarians. We have a letter online that you can download and tailor it to your, and asking them that they must stand with the people of Sudan, not with the militias. And we are calling on the international community to declare the Rapid Support Forces as a terrorist group. And what that do when the international community recognize a terrorist group, that the world will be obligated, all will come together collectively to fight them. And that is why we are urging you to join us in our 1 million voice for Sudan, to speak up, share with it, and donate $1. With this 1 million, we just want every single person to donate $1 between now and the end of November for a month, to put forward this challenge and see if you can add your voice, because the situation in Darfur and in Sudan is horrifying. But your voice, it starts with your voice to end it. It starts with you speaking up and urging others to do so. You know, genocide, ending genocide is not an easy task, but it's not impossible. But if we can all speak in one voice, compel our leaders to act, they can take an action that will end it, help people deliver life-saving assistance, and hold the perpetrators of these heinous crimes accountable. But if we keep quiet, silence kills more people. Please speak up. Thank you for listening to us. And I would like to give the opportunity to Amy to speak to you and add her voice to our voice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ustaz Ni'mat. That was really incredible, and it really frames exactly what's happening so well. I think that being from Al-Fashir has been so difficult, not just being from Al-Fashir, but being from Darfur, from Sudan, from all of it, but especially those of us who are from Al-Fashir. It's been very difficult because we feel like our voices have gone raw trying to get the world to pay attention, have the world understand that after Al Janana, after Zamzam, after all of this, Al Fashir was next. And we were very explicit about this. And a lot of people say that our communities are suffering in silence and it's unknown, but it's not true. It's very well known. The entire world knows that this is happening. And as Ustaz Ni'mat explained, this is a proxy war. It is not a civil war. It is a continuation of the Darfur genocide. It is a proxy war where the RSF, who is genocidal and has massacred so many civilians, thousands upon thousands, is funded by the UAE, is supported by Ukrainian special forces and Colombian mercenaries, and the SAF, who abandoned their stations instead of supporting the people on the ground and stopping the RSF from attacking civilians, killing, raping, burning, destroying our lives and our spirits and our home. They're supported by Saudi Arabia, Iran, Egypt, Turkey, Russia, and all the two top funders in this war are allies of the United States. And as an American, it's very, very hard in this moment to feel at all anything but disgust at the fact that nothing was done to stop this, even though it was entirely preventable. We keep saying over and over again that this is the biggest preventable humanitarian crisis of our time. I found out that some of my family members were killed through the videos that the RSF was sharing committing our genocides. As Ustaz Ni'mat explained, they're actually not only proud about what they're doing, but this genocide is, in 2025, it's live streamed by the perpetrators themselves, and yet still there's no international move to end this. We want you to join your voices together with ours, with people on the ground, as Ustaz Ni'mat said. We need 1 million voices to speak up, and hopefully millions more. You can be the catalyst for ending one of the longest running humanitarian crises of our time, the largest one currently existing. And as a lot of people don't know, But in the humanitarian community, we know this very well, and on the ground in Sudan, people know this. More people have been killed in Sudan the past couple of years than have been killed in Ukraine and Gaza combined. But the people who support us the most are people from Gaza, from Ukraine, from Yemen, from the Congo, from all of these areas, because we understand that none of us are free until all of us are free. All of this is entirely preventable. Let our families be the final sacrifice. This cannot continue, and this cannot be something that is allowed to stand, and not just allowed to stand, but being actively supported. Ustaz and Ahmad, I'd love for you to explain in your wonderful way that you do the battle for resources that's happening on the ground, the gold, the arable land, the mercenaries for hire, and how Sudan is so regionally important. Al Fashir, which is my town, it was the last city in Darfur that was not under the RSF, and it fell. And it is not only the last city in Darfur, it is the gateway to the rest of Sudan, because the RSF, of course, is attacking Kurdistan, it's attacking other areas, and insisting on erasing indigenous people, and also taking over the entire land. They feel that they have a license to kill anyone who stands in the way of them owning the entire country. So this war is not going to stop now just because Darfur has fallen. Their goal is to take back the entire country. Moreover, Darfur itself is the gateway to the rest of Africa. So, Sudan sits on the Red Sea, there's the Nile. And on the other side, of course, there's Chad and so many other countries that these actors who are perpetuating this proxy war are trying to get access to. The last thing I want to say before I pass it back is this. For us, this is something that's deeply personal, but it's incredibly global. If this is 2025 and genocides are allowed to just happen over and over again, what kind of world are we creating? What kind of precedent are we setting? What kind of things are we telling our children, our future generations, are allowed to happen if no one speaks up? Speaking up is the minimum that a person can do. Donating is incredibly important too, because right now, as we speak, Darfur Win Action Group, DarfurIDP.org, and several other Darfur organizations are on the ground every single day in Tawila and other areas as well, and other Sudanese organizations as well, doing everything we can to register civilians, feed, treat, shelter, provide dignity kits, do everything that we can to support survivors. Because even though thousands upon thousands were killed, there are still hundreds of thousands who are trapped in Al Fashir. There are still so many people whose lives can be saved. And that's why it is we're appealing to you and saying, join us, help us to raise the alarm and make sure that those who are still alive don't suffer the same fate that all of our brothers and sisters have already done, and that the rest of Sudan doesn't suffer the same fate as Darfur and Kurdistan and other indigenous areas. So,
thank you, Amy. Thank you. Of course, Sudan is very rich, and Darfur is the richest region in Sudan. We have gold, we have arable land. Before the war, Darfur and Kurdistan contribute to the national capital by 45 in livestock, more than 65 in agriculture. We produce gum, which is Sudan export 80% of the total world need for gum. This product is unique and very important. Every single human being has it in their blood because it is being used in manufacturing of medicine, of beverage, alcohol, cosmetic, all kind of product, you can name it, including wooding manufacturer, many other things, glues, and all of this. So Sudan produce 80% to 85 of the total world export of gum.
Gum
And
arabic,
this
right? Just
yes,
to clarify, gum arabic.
comes from Darfur, most of it, and Kurdistan. And these are now the most suffering regions in Sudan. Sudan is rich of gold. Darfur, across the region, every single area in Darfur is rich of gold and all other minerals that it can supply gold to the entire world. Unfortunately, our people have not been just forced to live poor, in the rich country, but to starve and die in by hunger in silence. It is disheartening and heartbreaking, and this must stop because simply they are killed because of who they are. You have to understand. We say people is like, oh no, this is like so polarized. It is true that this is Arab militias killing indigenous African people. And it is not us saying, they are the one who are recording the videos. They say they are changing the name of Darfur. People who are educated as much as Dr. Walid Madibo, a man with a PhD that been here in the United States. He is saying that we are now moving after the fall of Al-Fashir into changing the name of Darfur into Dar Jinaid, which is a reference to Rizergad Arab, who are murderers and rapists, and those who are genocidaires have been committing genocide, not since 2003, but as goes far as since 1980s when Southern Sudanese were attacked and forced to leave their own countries into having their independent country, killing the people of Nuba Mountains in their own region, and now killing and murdering the people of Darfur. But now the war has extended across the Sudan. We have seen how women were raped and forced into a mass suicide in Al Jazeera. We have seen how the people of Khartoum are murdered and bombed and shelled precisely, and their homes were occupied, and their daughters were abducted and raped and forced into sexual slavery by who? The rapid support forces. Even though both sides have committed violations, but the violations of the rapid support forces are so precise, so systematic, so deliberate. It is a policy of uprooting these indigenous African people from their land and taking over. They already start resettling people. For instance, Al Zuruk area is belong to the far northern Darfur, to the Gawa tribe. They have taken this during the interim period, the time when the revolution was still alive. The Himeti and his people have transported Arab tribes from Mali, Niger, Chad, Central African Republic, and settling them into this land. The evening of the fall of Al-Fashir, we have seen people in camel and horseback, families, including female and male members of the Arab clans, invading Al-Fashir to loot properties, but also in an attempt to occupy the homes. We have Al-Junaina have been occupied now by Arab tribe, the commander-in-chief of the forces, the Wali, which is the governor of the state. Those who are even delivering humanitarian are from the same tribe that uprooted the people of Al Junaina, massacred them, forced them into exile into Adare in Chad, and now they Al Junaina, as they call, we have liberated it from the Abid, which is the word slave in Arabic. So this is dangerous. As Amy said, and put it rightly, if you ignore genocide in Sudan, you cannot prevent genocide in your own country, in your own neighborhood, or even protect your family. So that is why we urge you, we speak to you, we rally you to speak in one voice. And this message is absolutely for the Sudanese people, for the Darfuri people, especially those of you who are in the diaspora. Let me tell you, whenever you try to speak, they fool you and they tell you, no, the international community doesn't care. No, there are people who do care. Those who deliver humanitarian aid, the UN agencies, the international agencies, and the member state of the Security Council. The European Union just had a hearing yesterday where Saleh Osman Mahmoud, a prominent human rights defender from Darfur, has testified. The UN Human Rights Council is hosting an urgent session about Sudan and Al-Fashir tomorrow. So people do care. And even if they are looking the other way, we have to speak up. We have to force them and rally the people. You know, people's voice can change things because these people in the US, in Europe, in Africa, in Asia, everywhere they vote. and they put this politician in office. So their voice count when they speak, and we all speak in one voice. We can compel them to act, and we must speak up. Especially those of you in the diaspora, you have to use your voice, rally, protest, write letters, go out, fundraise. Do not let your people die in silence, and rally your friends. We have good friends, people from all across Africa are now speaking out. People in Asia, in Latin America, in Europe, in the United States, many people. I will remember back in the days, the Safe Darfur movement, people from all walks of life, human rights laureate, people from advocacy community, interfaith group, students, celebrities, you name it. Everybody spoke because they protested genocide and they said we are in the 21st century and we must not tolerate and allow genocide to take place while we are watching. They compel because the referral to the ICC, the deployment of UNAMID, and the provision of humanitarian aid is because of the mobilization that did happen. If we can do it back then, we can do it now. Those people who survived in Darfur is because of the movement that across the world called Save Darfur have rallied and spoken up and held our international community accountable. And we can do it again. We have seen it work in Gaza. Today, Gaza has a ceasefire. We can do that for Sudan. And we must not look the other way in the face of genocide. Let me tell you, as much as horrified I am and heartbroken, we do not have an option. We cannot get discouraged. I get up every day and work 24/7 because I am also proud that our people are resilient. We have volunteers and teams on the ground working across the Sudan. But right now, in Al Fashir, in Tawila, people are on the ground providing humanitarian assistance. And there are so many of you who have supported us. There are so many of you who have contributed to our fundraising. And the challenge we face is that the large humanitarian or our international organizations that have the resources are unable to be on the ground because of safety and security issues. Those of us who are a small organization, we are on the ground, but we have very little to none resources in most cases. But we are struggling and standing up every day. So please join us, use your voice, and also rally your colleague, your peers, and support and contribute to our fundraiser and other Sudanese-led, Darfur-led organization, locally led, especially women-led organization who have been doing an amazing work on the ground, and we are proud to be a part of that. So supporting, speaking in one voice, helping us reaching that 1 million voices for Sudan, it will make an everlasting difference. And having every single one of us contribute just $1, because that $1 helps someone survive. And also urge our governments, our leaders from the United States, Europe to Africa to Asia, that they must force the rapid support forces to stop killing civilians and targeting them on ethnic basis, to release those who have been held hostage in Al Fashir as I speak to you today. Thousands, hundreds of thousands have been prevented from fleeing, and some of them were put into cameras. My heart was broken to see a physician from my hometown who were forced to speak highly about the rapid support forces while he's seen his relative, his family, his neighbors have been killed by the very forces. This is happening right now. But if you can speak, if you can join us, add your voice and take action, call your representative, call your parliamentarian, protest and stand up in the street and tell everyone that there is a horrific genocide where criminals have been emboldened and supported by the richest country in the Gulf state, the United Arab Emirates, that the US must stop the sale of arms to UAE. The European countries must stop the sale of arms to the UAE. And we urge other countries like Latin American countries, countries in Asia, including China, India, and other countries, to boycott UAE and boycott UAE's businesses. And here in the US and in the UK, the sport stars and all sport companies are dealing with the UAE, they must boycott and cut dealing with them and cut the businesses. Even you as individuals. Right now, myself, I will never buy a ticket to a flight that connects through Emirates, let alone buying a ticket from any of the Emirates airlines. So economically, we can hold them accountable. You know, there are two sides of the story. There are criminal accountability, but also financial accountability. And if we can do that, it hurt them because they are so arrogant, so emboldened because of their resources and because of the money they have. Right now, they are seeking to murder, wipe out, and remove the people of Sudan from their land, and we must not let them do so. Thank
Absolutely. I
you.
100% agree. I want to say a couple of things. Let's parse through some of that. One of the most important things that people are missing is context about what's happening in Sudan and how it relates to the rest of the world. As Indigenous people, of course, from Sudan, we stand in solidarity with Indigenous people around the world, including in Gaza. And we saw actually, I was a child during the Save Darfur movement, but also when, my father, one of the original whistleblowers of the Darfur genocide, and several other of our founders of Darfur IDP were really pushing for the world to take notice about what's happening in our town. It's actually why we became refugees in the first place, because of the fact that the massacres, as you mentioned, of indigenous tribes started way earlier. It started in the 90s and even before, and that's how we became refugees. My family became refugees because of the whistleblowing that our parents did, and the fact that they're original whistleblowers of the Darfur genocide. A lot of people don't talk about that. A lot of people talk about movements that were historically westernized and essentially framed the understanding of Sudan and Darfur and all of our people's struggles through a Western lens, like Save Darfur. And I think that's what's so powerful about the fact that a lot of youth are speaking up now, whether it's from Darfur or from Khartoum or from any of the other areas. We're all speaking up and saying that the entire country is Darfur. But the actions don't show that. The actions currently in the world show that people are saying Darfur, but are they actually there to stand up for Darfur? Which is why it is so important that we say, don't help us without us. If you want to support people in Darfur right now who are dealing with the genocide, who are survivors, who, are essentially dealing with the huge land grab and resource grab that has been essentially, the source of all of our murders for several decades. Support Darfuri-led organizations, indigenous-led organizations, support people who co-architect their solutions with the people on the ground. This is very, very important. And it's the same thing in Kurdistan as well. All of us work together to try and make sure that the people most vulnerable, the people most in need, are not only on the front lines, but at the forefront of change. For people to understand why it's so important right now, actually, there's something that you said that I think I'd like to, uh, you know, re-emphasize. In the beginning of the early 2000s, when the genocide was first recognized internationally, there were rumors that the Janjaweed, which is Devil on Horseback and the precursor to the RSF, wanted to change the name of Darfur from Darfur to Dar al Arab, because Dar means home and Fur means the Fur tribe, which is one of the indigenous tribes, and that means like the home of the Fur, but it really just means the home of indigenous people. So they wanted to change it to complete the erasure, and now that same methodology is being brought up again because the genocidal RSF is using identity, both the identity of the indigenous people and the identity of some of the leaders, like the fact that they're part of some specific tribes, like the Rezegat. They're using that to create polarization, and there are stories that we can tell you on the ground of when every single Darfur Arab tribe was forced by the Janjaweed to bring boys to fight in what's it called, to fight and erase people, and that there were actually leaders who refused to bring the boys, and they were killed. They were killed by the Janjaweed, and they were killed by the RSF. So when we say that Darfur is suffering, when we say that this is a battle against erasure, we're not saying that it's as simple as like what's it called, this tribe kills and this tribe gets killed. No, it's literally a systemic and what's it called, a violent systemic oppression, and it's carried out. It's not lawlessness. It is a very, very, very organized killing. And one of my colleagues at the Yale Human Rights Lab was saying that he's not seen this level of speed and atrocity since Rwanda. 100 days, more than 800,000 people killed. That's what we're seeing right now. Through the satellites, the blood in our home, in my hometown, can be seen from space. It can be seen from space, and that is something so just jarring and painful to even talk about. And now we're seeing that bodies are being burned and disappeared. The RSF is blocking out Al Fashir, and they have an incredible propaganda machine because they're trying to say right now that, oh, there's no war. There's no war in Ba Sing Se, as my siblings like to say, as in like they're saying there isn't a war, but there is a war going on. The other thing is that this is so similar. The siege of Al Fashir is so similar to the siege of Sarajevo. So for almost 2 years, for those of you who don't understand, is that Al Fashir was closed off and no food, water, or medicine was allowed in, and people were not allowed out. And then, of course, these are the final stages of the Darfur genocide, the final ethnic cleansing. And we're seeing the same thing in Kurdistan. We see Baba Nusa is pretty much empty now, and we're seeing a lot of issues going on. We're seeing sieges in Kurdistan as well, famine. But here's the thing. Even though the war is all over Sudan, the genocide is in Darfur. The reason that we talk about this, we talk about saying Darfur, we talk about a million voices, we talk about Darfur Women Action Group, Balad al Khair, DarfurIDP.org, all of these different, indigenous-led organizations, is because we've been active for decades, even when the international community turned away, even when the rest of our entire country turned away. The reason that we're survivors is because we were lucky enough to be able to get out, but there are hundreds of thousands of us and millions of us hundreds of thousands of us who were killed, millions of us who were not able to get out. And even now, all across Sudan, more than 150,000 people were killed. It's so upsetting for me and so painful because I feel like it is so preventable. And now you have people like Ustaz Ahmad said in Al Jazeera and other areas as well, being targeted for their ethnicity and being attacked as well. And why is that? Because the RSF feels that they have a license to kill. The RSF, who calls themselves the Janjaweed, feels that they have a license to kill because in the time of the Darfur genocide, they were given that license to kill. They were told basically, if you clear off the Africans, or the Abid, as Ustaz Ahmad said, the slaves, which is our, in Sudan, that's a derogatory term. And actually most of the Arab world, that's what they will call, it's the equivalent of the N-word for, people in the Arab world who are African, in the Afro-Arab world. They will say, if you clear them off the land, you can keep the land and you can keep the resources. And on top of that, Bashir said, I will give you the country. And Bashir was the head of the SAF. There's an incredible video that Darfur Women Action Group has commissioned that makes it very clear about how it is that the SAF and the RSF, or the Janjaweed at the time, collaborated to carry out the genocide. And now the RSF is saying, we're gonna basically use our license to kill to get everything back. There are videos coming out, as we said, very dangerous videos, and actually they're executing this already, where the RSF representatives are saying that they're going to, quote, cleanse the bloodlines of women in Al Jazeera and other areas. And that, of course, means rape as a weapon of war and such. So this is all to say that anyone who says that this is just a civil war, or it has nothing to do with genocide, or it is not ethnically motivated, or whatever, they're completely wrong. Indigenous people are being erased. Literally, the words they're using is, we will erase you. They're saying we're going to erase you as if you never existed. And then the rest of Sudan is being attacked and is being told that if they don't join, they too will be killed. So this is something that is a battle against Arab supremacy. It needs to be stopped. And, it's a battle against erasure. So Arab supremacy, of course, is like white supremacy, but in our regions, in North Africa, and especially in Sudan, it is what is driving the genocide. last thing I want to say before I pass it back to Ustaz Imad, and I actually have a question for you because I think it'll be very, very helpful for people to understand this. Um, the last thing I want to say is that I can't stress to you enough how preventable this is and how important it is right now that we don't let another al-Fashir happen. Several areas, including Tina and other areas, have been attacked inside Darfur already, and other places in Kurdistan as well. If this is all of Sudan, then Khartoum is like over here, and Darfur is over here, and Kurdistan is in the middle. And so imagine that the RSF is drawing a long line all across the country and just leaving, you know, atrocities in every part of their wake. As Ustaz Ni'mat said, yes, we need to hold the SAF accountable and we need to hold the RSF accountable. But the RSF's speed and, how do I say, impunity by which they're executing the genocide, and the fact that literally weapons from the UK that were earmarked for the UAE ended up in the hands of the RSF killing our people, and weapons from Canada as well. This is well documented, it's well known in the news. That fact alone tells you that if we create a targeted campaign right now to boycott and divest from the UAE. I know that this is going to be winter break soon, and I know a lot of people are planning their vacations. Do not go to Dubai. Do not go to the UAE. Hold people accountable. Don't make that your, how do I say, don't support the genocide in Darfur. Like, unless the UAE were to actually stop supporting the RSF and put an end to this genocide, which they absolutely can do, I do not see why it is anyone would want to support or hold them accountable. And like we said before, none of us are free until all of us are free. The genocide in Gaza, the genocide in Darfur, what's going on in the Congo, Yemen, Ukraine, all of these things, they're all connected because, as we said, if you devalue human life as an entire planet, this is exactly what happens. So that's what I want to say. The question that I had for Ustaz Ni'mat before we close is, what do you think has been the most effective way for people to help? For us, it's been donations and it has been raising voices together. Is there something else that people can do? Like getting informed and, you know, because you're an incredible leader. You've trained so many of us, and we all look up to you, especially young Darfuris and young Sudanese people and people all over the humanitarian and diplomatic community. For those of you who don't know, Ustazah Imad is like a freaking giant. She's the giant whose shoulders we all stand on, just like my dad and other Darfuri whistleblowers of the Darfur genocide, the original people. So this is what I want to ask. I want to ask, what advice would you give to young people who really want to do something about Darfur, who learned about it in school and don't know what else to do? My answer is support Darfuri organizations and support the Darfur Task Force, which includes Darfur Women Action Group, DarfurIDP.org, Balad al Khair, SSC, a couple of others. We'll tell you more about that later. What is Ustaz Imad, the expert's answer?
Thank Amy and thank our audience for staying with us. I know this has been a long day with all the technical difficulties. We
Yes. Ustaz Imad?
Yes, what I wanted to briefly say, I agree with you. Speaking up, starting with speaking up about it, share, let as many people as possible to know, because when people know about it, they feel outrageous, they feel angry, and they can turn that anger into action. Speaking up against it, telling the world about the Rebel Support Forces crimes, telling the world about the UAE's crimes, the United Arab Emirates genocidal attacks by supporting the RSF in Sudan. Writing letters to your representative or make a call. If members of Congress receive 100 calls, they will not look the other way. They find it compelling to look at that situation. Call your parliamentarian. If you are in Canada, in Europe, in Australia, anywhere in the world, call your members of parliament and talk to them. Tag them on social media. Tag the member state of the Security Council that Darfur needs you, Sudan needs you, and that Darfur needs you more than ever. We need
Absolutely.
protection of civilians and hinder humanitarian aid, accountability, then political settlement will follow. Another important aspect also is that the rapid support forces as members of the TASI's government, the genocidal government that created, some of them are living in the US, they're US citizens. Some of them are living in the UK, some in Canada,
Yeah.
and other European countries. And you know, in Europe, like in the United States, the national laws prohibit anyone with implication in war crimes, crime against humanity, acts of torture
Yep.
from entering into the country. Aiding and abetting is a crime.
Yep.
So tell the United States government and tell the American people and all these European and other countries, even in Africa, there can be a universal jurisdiction whereby these people can be taken to court and their citizenship can be stripped away from them. So remind the United States government, even when they have a talk, that they cannot bring the member of the RSF into the US because the national laws prohibit or they are deemed inadmissible. Inadmissible, that means they are not supposed to get a visa because they're not eligible to get a visa to come to the US.
Yeah.
Some of them, of course, are traveling under fake IDs. So that is a crime in the United States and in Europe and in many other countries. We must use that. We are citizens of these countries and we have to use the laws to hold them accountable. If we can stop the RSF political wings, those who are living in the US, in Europe, and in other countries, who are going around to lobby governments. Also, many of them can be suspected of money laundering because they are working for the RSF. How they are paying them? They are paying them as a result of genocide committed
Yeah.
against our people. So we must use that
Mhm.
and file cases and call on our government to expel them. Congress can't write the administration and ask that members of the RSF because they celebrated on the eve of El Fashir fall, where many people have been murdered. This RSF affiliate have celebrated the, the killing of our people, the murder of our relative friends and families that are still, their blood is still spilling in Al Fashir, many who remain um, abducted or held hostage, and that is a crime in
Yeah.
the United States. So I would like to stop here, but remind you, please join us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, wherever you are available. Share, repost our flyer, 1 million voices for Sudan. Support, speaking up, and donate that $1.
Mm.
If we get 1 million voices to speak and to donate, that will be $1 million. That will directly goes to people who fled from Al Fashir to Tawila. And we are also operating in South Kordofan. We can also support the people
Yeah.
in Kordofan and Darfur who have been the most targeted as of now. Thank you for speaking up and for standing up for the people of Sudan and for the people of Darfur because please keep speaking out and hold the UAE and anyone who aid and abet genocide in Sudan accountable. Thank you
Absolutely.
for
Absolutely.
taking the time to speak, and we'll continue to come back to you with these updates every now and then to keep you informed and encourage and galvanize many more people to take action.
Absolutely. And the thing is, I want to just say thank you for everything that you said. And before I close with some poems, I think people are asking, like, what are the asks? Like, what is the main asks? Like Sazan Ahmad said, we want you to speak up. Join the 1 million Voices for Darfur, sorry, 1 million Voices for Sudan campaign, where you speak up and try to donate $1 and get, you know, 5 to 10 people that you know to do the same. And then also support and donate to DarfurIDP.org, Darfur Women Action Group, Balad al Khair, SSC and several other organizations that are directly on the ground. For Darfur IDP, for example, as I mentioned, our executive director is one of the original whistleblowers of the Darfur genocide. When you give a donation to Darfur Women Action Group or DarfurIDP.org, it only takes us a couple of days to get that on the ground in Tawila. So you can literally go from supporting one day to knowing that in the next less than a week, the people on the ground are actually getting that support that you send. It is the most direct and effective way to support people in Darfur and in Kurdistan and in other areas that are targeted. The other thing that I will say is, like Ustaz Ahmad said, hold your leaders accountable. I always tell people, call your leaders and ask them, what are they doing about Darfur? What are they saying about Darfur? Have they mentioned Darfur? Why do we say Darfur? Because the genocide is there, and everything that has happened in Darfur, everything that we're allowing to happen in Darfur and aiding and abetting, it gives a license for everywhere else in the country to face the same kinds of atrocities. If you allow Darfuri women to be raped, other people all across Sudan will be soon raped by the RSF. If you allow Darfuri children to be killed and burned, the same thing will happen to the rest of Sudan. If you are Sudanese, whether you are in the diaspora or in Sudan or in other stages of displacement, understand that the story of Darfur is the story of Sudan. It isn't Ahl Darfur, it's Ahl Sudan. We're all part of the same family, and we're all in it together, and the youngest generation understands that the most. And we're always grateful for people like Ustaz Ahmad and others who have been pushing this for so long, who we've learned from and continue to speak on. The last thing I'll say is that if you have access to the Human Rights Commission and other forums where they are going to be talking about Sudan, about Darfur in general, and Sudan as well. Yes, I will close now. After I close with the poem. So when you have access to those forums, tell them that you want to hear from a Sudanese person. You want to hear from a Darfuri person specifically. Don't help us without us. And so the last thing I want to do is I want to close with two poems, as we discussed, which is People Like Us, which explains, the start, and then Mama, which will tell you that, we need to put people at the forefront of change, and women especially at the forefront of change. Thank you for listening to us. This is People Like Us. And this will be the first of many discussions that we have as we update you over time. Memories of my childhood live between the rings of sand around my ankles and the desert heat in my lungs. I still believe that nothing washes worry from tired skin better than the Nile and my grandma's hands. Every day I go to school with the weight of dead neighbors on my shoulders. The first time I saw bomb smoke, it didn't whine and billow like the heat from the kitchen hearth, but it forced itself on the Darfur sky, smothering the sun with tears that it stole from our bodies. The worst thing about genocide isn't the hunger, the murder, the politics, the government-paid soldiers that chase you across borders and into camps. It's the silence. For 3 months, they closed the schools down because people like us are an eyesore. So the first month, we took it. The second, we waited. The third month, we met underneath a date palm tree, drinking up every second our teachers gave us, turning fruit pits into fractions. On the last day, they came with a message, put them in their place. We didn't stand a chance. Flesh was never meant to dance with silver bullets, so we prayed for the sun to come and melt daggers from our backs, lifted our voices up to God, to the clouds, were spent for weeping in the sand. Beneath our toes, echoed with the song of every soul that ever walked before us. I hid underneath the bed that day with 4 other people. 12 years later, and I can't help but wonder where my cousins hid when the soldiers torched the houses, threw the bodies in the wells, if the weapons didn't get you, the poison would, and sometimes they didn't want to use bullets because it would cost them more than we did. But what does it matter? I've seen 16 ways to stop a heart. When you build nations on someone's bones, what sense does it make to break them? In one day, my mother choked on rifle smoke. My father washed the blood from his face. My uncles carried half the bodies to the hospital and the rest to the grave, and we watched. For every funeral we planned, there were 60 we couldn't have. The sand in the Sahara tastes a lot like powdered bone. And when the soldiers came, our blood on their ankles, I remember their laces, scarlet footprints on the floor. I remember waking to the sound of hushed voices in the night, etched with the kind of sorrow that turns even the loudest dreams to ash. Our parents came home with broken collarbones and a taste of fear carved into their skin, and it was impossible to believe in anything. Fear is the coldest thing in the desert, and it burns you. bows you down to half your height and owns you, and no one hears you, because what could grow in the desert? Anyway, thank you. And now here's Mama. Of course, I'm gonna perform Mama now for you, and I hope that it cheers you up, Ustaz Ahmad, because we have to keep the fight going, and we um, learned from our people on the ground what resilience truly means, that they can take away our lives, but they cannot take away our humanity. So join us, and here's Mama. So I'm walking down the street when a man stops me and says, "Hey, yo, sister, are you from the motherland?" Because my skin is a shade too dark not to have come from foreign soil. Because this garment on my head screams Africa. Because my body is a beacon calling everyone to come flock to the motherland. I'm like, yeah, I'm from Sudan. Why? He said, yes, you is. Because you got a little bit of flavor in you. Don't get me wrong. I'm just admiring what your mama gave you. Let me tell you something about my mama. She can reduce a man to tattered flesh without so much as blinking. Her words fester beneath your skin, and the whole time, you won't be able to stop cradling her eyes. Because my mama is a woman, flawless and formidable in the same step. Woman walks into a war zone and has warriors cowering at her feet. My mama holds all of us in her face, in her body, in her blood, and blood is no good once you let it loose, so she always holds us close, keeping us safe from caving in. When I was 7, my mama cradled bullets in the billows of her robes. That same night, she came home and taught me how to get gunpowder out of cotton with a bar of soap. Years later, when the soldiers held her at gunpoint and asked her who she was, she said, "I am a daughter of Adam, Ana bani Adam, who the hell are you?" And the last time we went home, we watched our village burn. Soldiers pouring blood for civilian skulls as if they too could turn water into wine. The woman who raised me turned and said, "Don't be scared. I'm your mother. I'm here. I won't let them through." My mama gave me conviction. Women like her inherit bruised wrists, tired eyes, and titanium-plated spines. The daughters of widows wearing the wings of amputees. They carry countries between their shoulder blades. Now, I'm not saying that dating is a first world problem, but these trifling guys seem to be. The kind who'll quote Rumi, but not know what he sacrificed for war. Who'll fawn over Lupita, but turn their racial filters on. Who take their politics with a latte when I take mine with tear gas. Every guy I meet wants me my introduction to the dark side, wants me to open up this obsidian skin and let him read every cheerful page, because what survivor hasn't had her struggle made spectacle? Don't talk about the motherland unless you know that being from Africa means waking up an afterthought in this country. Don't talk about my flavor unless you know that my flavor is insurrection. It is rebellion. It is resistance. My flavor is burden. It is grit. It is compromise. And you don't know compromise till you've rebuilt your home for the third time, without bricks, without mortar, without any other option. I turned to the man and said, "My mother and I don't walk the streets alone back home anymore. Back home, there are no streets to walk anymore." Thank you, Ustaz Ahmad, and thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you for having me. Support DWAG and support the Darfur IDP.org.
Thank you so much. And thank you to our audience,
Yes.
of course, for being with us. Please share, tell everyone, keep it on speaking up, and let us make a difference for our people, and let us make the Darfur genocide, the Sudan war, the last in the world. Thank you.
Yes. Let's end all the wars in the world. Bye-bye.